Hi, Gary. Hi, everyone else. We missed you,
Hey,
Gary.
Armin.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. I
For
hope you're
sure.
not. I hope you're not taken aback by any of the intrigue that's unfolding.
Like what? What do you mean?
Oh, by Nuri al-Maliki in Iraq, Shara'a in Syria, Erdogan in Turkey, and MBS in Saudi. You know
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
the corpse isn't even dead in Iran, and they got their Ginsu knives out.
Yeah, yeah. I heard Turkey is actually creating a buffer zone so that if the revolution in Iran is successful and the regime falls, they're worried about people coming from outside Iran to Turkey. So they
Yes,
created a buffer zone to stop that from happening.
yes, that's
Um,
our understanding as well.
yeah,
Right
right.
right in between the Kurds and the Azeris on either side of that buffer zone.
So give us what like the list that you provided. Do you want to talk about all the other ones? Like what have you seen for every single one that you just mentioned on your list? What how they're responding to the
Sure, I don't mean to
revolution and
hijack
the
the
mass?
call though. I just, if you want to wait, we can get into it. Otherwise,
No,
glad
no,
to
get
see.
into it. Get into it if
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Ayatollah Khamenei, as well as his predecessor, are very learned men. As far as it being Islamic scholars and being geopolitical students, par excellence. And the warning that Ayatollah Khamenei gave some months ago about that, when the regime falls, and it will fall, but when it falls, that there would be just generalized instability. What he was doing was essentially back channeling to Turkey, as well as to Syria, as well as to Iraq, Shia Iraq in particular, and to listeners in Saudi, that they should be on the ready to jump in and take their place as soon as they are defunct. And that's exactly what's happening in the past 48 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Um.
That's going to
So
create some unique opportunities that I've been alluding to in Iran, and uh, there's yeah. So just I don't mean to put too much out on the table right now.
so what I've heard is that he has announced he has chosen three people to replace Khamenei has chosen three people to replace him.
Yes.
In case that's what you've heard as well, right? So in case he
Yes, and
dies, okay.
yeah, and and that his whereabouts are really being kept tightly held, because there are increasing numbers of defections from within the regime.
Yeah, and I think that probably both U.S. and Israel know where he is. My understanding, no matter how much they try to hide it, I'm almost sure that they know exactly where he is. Is that your understanding as well?
Not having been on the team that put the chip under his skin, I'm kidding. I have no information on that.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if that the person that he trusts the most right now, which is not right next to him all the time, whoever that person is a Mossad agent. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes out. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I'll tell you.
it- yeah. Jeffrey, what do you think? By the way, before Jeffrey speaks, by the way, guys, for anybody who's new here, if you want to speak, there's a reaction button at the very bottom of your screen, which is a smiley face with a plus on top of it. If you click that and then you click the raise hand icon, then BT June is here. She will add you to a list, um, and you will be able to speak. However, please keep in mind that we are recording this and we're going to be publishing this on YouTube. So if you're not comfortable with that, you could wait until once I'm done, we're going to stop recording and you could start talk when I'm not recording anymore. Okay. So Jeffrey, can you let us know? And I saw Jeremy raise his hand, so after Jeffrey we could go to
And
him.
Armin, if I could, I'm so glad Jeffrey's on because I got to hear him for the first time on the last call. And it was very informative. Can I just pose a question to Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Jeff, are you since I suspect you and I were in similar parts of the world at different times, we just didn't know it. Are you surprised to see Nouri al-Maliki rear his head once again?
You're
Oh,
muted.
sorry, I
You're
hit the
muted.
wrong button. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could. I really, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know how else to say that. And
So for
yeah,
people
we
who don't
probably
know
wore
Nuri,
shirts passing of the night, right?
so guys, for people who don't know, Nouri al-Maliki is like an ally of the Islamic Republic inside Iraq, and so Jeffrey, you want to respond, like give us all your thoughts regarding what's happening, so people could listen to you as well.
Well, I mean, in regards to your question, it's pretty clear. At least all the open intelligence indicators show we know exactly where, you know, the Ayatollah very much is located, and you know, I'll just leave it at that. I will say though, regarding because I know it's been expensive. Yeah, I wish it wasn't an ocean of blood between Iran's the brave Persian people and that horrible regime. I can at least say there's also other open intelligence that illustrates both the U.S. intelligence and Mossad has had a target profile of all the people that have been identified as being involved in that shit. And I'll just leave
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Well, one thing else I want to add, I just heard reports that the Islamic Republic is printing money like crazy right now to be able to pay people um, for actually keeping everything in order and attacking the Iranian people to stay in power, to pay people, which is also going to now contribute, which also shows that they're running out of money. Um, and this is basically a house of cards ready to fall. It also suggests that all of this money printing is going to contribute again more to the fall of the currency, which is going to probably escalate. The revolution is going to speed it up again as well. People are not going to be. I just got an audio message from Iran inside Iran. Somebody sent me an audio to play on the show. No, so first he sent it to me just his report about what happened, and then I asked him like, "Can I play this on the show?" And he says, "Well, we have nothing else to lose, so just play it." Like he doesn't care if he gets caught or anything. He says that we have nothing else to do. So imagine if that's the situation we are right now. If the currency falls even more, which everybody expects that it would, there are more people who are going to think in Iran that there's nothing to there's that it's not worth everything. No cost is too much for getting rid of the Islamic Republic because they have not much to live for. So let's go to Jeremy.
Amin. First of all, just thoughts are with the brave Iranian people. I listened to some people, American think tank type people who've been involved in American policy. They're kind of friendly with the Turkish, but one thing that was really worried me listening to them is this idea. I mean, I think Turkey's really worried about the Kurds in Iran getting strong, apart from other things, apart from maybe an alliance between Israel and Iran. And they really don't want this to happen. They want to continue a weak regime in Iran. But I mean, a lot of the argument for that is that Iran's going to collapse and all fall apart, and it's going to be chaos. I'm just wondering your thoughts on that. In particular, the Kurdish ethnicities, whether they support a united Iran, how many of them support a united Iran, how many of them want to separate off. But also, I mean, they're also thinking that the American policy might be just to take out the Ayatollah and have someone from the regime come in and keep things together. I mean, I would hope that after all the Iranian people have been through, that's just not possible. But I mean, I don't know whether big powers like the US really care about people. That's more about being ruthless and doing what's best for their own country. So just your thoughts whether that's any possibility as well. Thanks.
All right, Really good questions. I do want to encourage more people to raise their hand. Again, the reaction button is at the bottom of your screen. Click on it, and then you raise your hand like this, right? So you could BT will add you to the list. So first of all, I just want to, sorry for being nitpicky as an Iranian. I do have to say this again. As non-Iranians, I understand the language that you're using, but please understand why we Iranians have to be correcting this line of questioning. So when you're talking about the Kurdish separatists, it's important not to refer to them as Kurds, as the Kurds in Iran, because the vast majority of Iranian Kurds are not separatists; they're patriots, and they are also fighting for Prince Reza Pahlavi to come back to Iran, and they are united with the rest of Iran, right? So if we're talking about the Kurds getting strong, like Turkey, when you say like Turkey is worried about the Kurds getting strong, no, not the Kurds, the Kurdish separatists, because most Iranian Kurds are united with the rest of Iran, and we want Iranian Kurds getting stronger. They are going to be fighting against the separatists, right? So the Kurdish separatists, their main enemy is patriotic Kurdish Iranians who see themselves as Iranian first and Kurdish second. So Iranian Kurds becoming stronger is an anti-separatist, um, has an anti-separatist effect, not a pro-separatist effect, right? So when we're talking about the separatists, let's name them as separatists, not just the Kurds. And in fact, the Kurdish people in Iran, they have a lower percentage of separatists among them compared to maybe like among the Turks, they're still a minority, but it's a little bit higher there, like the Azeris, or maybe some in the Baluchistan. So I think the least, I mean, they're more armed, right, compared to the Turks, like the separatists there, but they have even less support compared to separatists, for example, in the northwest areas of Iran, even though they're a minority there as well. I mean, for example, we weren't expecting for people from. Some people were suggesting that we're not going to see Tabriz to participate in this revolution because this revolution is very patriotic, very nationalistic, very pro Pahlavi, which is something a lot of Iranians are like, oh, Tabriz is not going to join in. But we saw Tabriz rose up and made us proud, and they came out and supported the Shah during this revolution. And one of the most beautiful chants that came out of the Turkish areas was Turkish, Farsi, the Persians and the Turks. We are all united for a free Iran, right? So it was and they were chanting that in Turkish, Iranian Turks, right? Iranian Azeris, which shows that we are all united under our national identity, and we don't care about our ethnic identities right now, right? So what was the so you're saying Turkey wanted it is our understanding is that Erdogan and maybe Saudi Arabia and some of these other countries would prefer a weak Iran under the Islamic Republic, even if they don't like the Islamic Republic. Sometimes they seem to prefer a weak Iran under the Islamic Republic rather than a free Iran. So that is true. They do seem to. I mean, now they're changing their tune because a lot of them think a war is inevitable, but they would have preferred not having like a complete regime change. Um, with regards to being worried about chaos, honestly, like I don't. I mean, obviously, every transition is going to be messy to some extent, right? You cannot have a completely smooth, problem-free transition. But I think Iran is going to be able to handle that better than other countries. I mean, like for example, people compare it to Iraq and Lebanon and Syria, but like there is no strong Iraqi identity that unites Iraq together. You know, there is no strong Syrian identity. Like for example, Kurdish Iraqis, they see themselves as Kurdish, more than Iraqi. Like there is not that much of an Iraqi strong patriotic Iraqi identity, especially because these are new countries that have just been made up. Iran has like an ancient culture. They have deep roots in, um, their literature, their poetry, their legends. There's something that the roots of Iranian history and culture go so deep that bonds the entire country in such a way that you don't see it in Iraq or Lebanon or Syria or these other countries in the region, who have just recently been made up by Western powers, right? And that's very important because it creates a sense of teamwork and unity that makes the transition period a lot less chaotic. I'm not saying that it's going to be uh, completely like without any problems. Obviously, any transition is going to be somewhat messy, but I think we Iranian people are going to be able to handle it, because we're so united, and there's over build rebuilding Iran, right? The amount of solidarity among Iranians is now more than ever. And even some of the divisions that we had before, a lot of that is gone, because what we used to have as a point of unity was our opposition against the Islamic Republic. We had some divisions over what comes next, but now we don't have that division. Now we are pretty much, the vast majority of us are like basically on the same page regarding what we want to come after the Islamic Republic, which is the return of Pahlavi. So that's going to reduce the chaos. And your last point that you made regarding, um, whether or not the foreign powers, like the West, is going to do stuff, and Maduro, like just come and remove Khamenei, just like they did with Maduro, and then whatever system is in place from the Islamic Republic to bring that back into power. I mean, there's always a chance for something like this happening, and we Iranians have to be very fighting very hard for not letting that happen. But I think the chances of this being successful in Iran is much, much, much less than in Venezuela. Like the people in Venezuela really didn't come out for Machado, like the way Iranian people are coming out for Prince Reza Pahlavi, right? So the Iranian people are dying, are giving up their lives just to be able to say his name. Like they are risking their lives, giving up their lives just to be able to come into the streets, to just be able to chant out the Pahlavi name. So, and given the cost, this revolution is not over by the fall of the Islamic Republic. This revolution will, like, the Iranian people have been giving up so much lives, they have sacrificed so much lives, not for the end of the Islamic Republic, but for the sake of Pahlavi returning to Iran. So anything short of that means that they're going to be continuing to fight. Like, imagine more than, I think more than 50,000 Iranian people being murdered by the regime for the return of Pahlavi, and then you don't get the return of Pahlavi. Do you think the Iranian people are just going to go home and like, okay, like that's it, we're going to accept this? And in fact, like imagine if Khamenei is killed or removed, so a lot of Iranian people would be more encouraged that we're winning, right? So you're like, oh, Khamenei is killed, and now here we're going to continue with the Islamic Republic. um no, we are now so much more encouraged that we're winning, so we're going to go all the way, right? So imagine if Khamenei is killed and United States just backs out and says, just is content with something from the Islamic Republic taking the power in hand, and just like them backing off. Well, the Iranian people are going to be back into the streets, right? I mean, the Iranian people are already waiting to go back into the streets, even if United States or Israel do not help. So if United States and Israel back off eventually after Khamenei dies, and say like, well, this is good enough for us. Well, the Iranian people are going to be back in the streets, and this the IRGC now, without Khamenei, now has to decide if they're going to surrender to millions of Iranian people continuing the revolution, or to continue shooting at them, right? And if they continue shooting at them, because if they don't, then they're going to have to surrender. So if they continue shooting at people, then we're going to be back where we are right now until Pahlavi is back. So this is why I see it very unlikely for world powers to be successful in to just pull off like a Maduro and be like, okay, we remove Khamenei, maybe we could have a version of the Islamic Republic that we are okay with. I don't think that is possible in Iran. Does that answer your question, Jeremy?
Yeah, thanks. Best of luck.
Jeffrey, will
Yeah.
you clarify for me, please, if you have something to add here or if you'd like to be added to the list? Good morning, Armin. Good afternoon, I guess.
Good afternoon. Jeffrey, your mic is closed. Oh,
Gonna type it out. I didn't know if you wanted me to say. With regards to the issue of reconstitution and autocratic reconstitution after the Mullah regime is removed, that's always an issue you have to take into account with regards to any endeavor like this. I would contend that very issue, that like the very issues that Armin that he touched on, also underwrite the unique position that His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi has, right, because of his historical connections in the transition period, because it tightens the window regarding any kind of residual elements or exogenous actors taking advantage of the instability and transition to try and reform autocratic control. So, I mean, Prince Reza Pahlavi, because of the role his father played, and rightly why a lot of Iranians very much have a lot of buy-in to Prince Pahlavi's family and the role they played during the time of the Shah. I mean, like, he's uniquely qualified to help manage the transition. I don't think there's anybody else that could do it, actually.
yeah, not even close. Good
Okay,
point.
Gary, sir.
Gary?
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, we
Okay,
can hear you.
great. First of all, Armin, thanks for everything you said before. I could only shake my head in agreement with everything you said. Everything. Um, and I think that the U.S. has two main missions in Iran. And I think first and foremost is the securing of the nuclear sites. I'm just being honest. Given how things played out southeast of Baghdad in the Iraq War, I had no part in any of those discussions except awareness of the nuclear materials and the need to secure them, and the failure to secure them resulted in a lot of hard work over about a 5-year period, because there was essentially nuclear dust that was going back and forth between Ramadi and Al Azizaya and Najaf. That repeat of that in Iran is wholly unacceptable to the U.S. government and Department of Energy and to U.S. CENTCOM. So that's first and foremost. By occupying those sites, and that would be if somebody were to say, you tell us what you think is going to happen, not obfuscate. I would say that there will be, in addition to limited but overwhelming strikes, it will be in an effort to secure every one of the nuclear sites on the central part of the Iranian plateau, so that there are U.S. CENTCOM forces there, and then UN, International Atomic Energy Agency personnel can be there to help decommission them. That's first and foremost. But those will then set up islands that can connect Western Iran to Eastern Iran and Northern Iran to Southern Iran, um, so that they can do the work of forming their own government. I think that the United States has no intention of absconding with Ayatollah Khamenei, but instead placing him in internal exile, essentially in a zoo somewhere in either Mashhad, Qom, or Tehran, where he has no contact with the outside world, but he can be interrogated by everybody who comes after him. So I think those are missions 1 and 2 for what you're about to see unfold, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think for United States, the priority is going to be the enrichment, the uranium that has already been enriched.
Yes.
And I think the priority for Israel is going to be the rocket launchers.
Yes.
For that's the highest priority for Israel to take at first. However, both of them, I think, realize, I hope they realize, that we are going to be back here again if the regime doesn't fall. Like
Yeah,
how
so
many times?
the regime is going to fall. I just want to take that off the table. The
Yeah,
regime is going to fall, and it's to the Israelis' benefit. And I have no contacts in Israel to
yeah,
confirm that. But the Israelis, I agree with you 100%, are interested in getting rid of those launchers, whether they're solid rocket or they're liquid fueled. They want to make sure those are not flying toward Israel. But for the U.S.,
right.
it's securing the nukes and then making sure that nobody obstructs the Iranian people's choices of who's going to lead them.
Right. I'm going to say this because I want to be recorded for people who might be, because some people don't care about this enough because they think this is an Iranian issue. But I also want to hear Iran. Like I want to also want to make sure Iranians hear this because they need to frame their all the arguments that they're making based on the national interest of other countries rather than, oh, come help us, we're suffering. Yeah, well, okay, but the governments of other countries are supposed to be working based on what is in the best interest of their own citizens, right? So the when you're framing your arguments and talking about this wherever you are, it's important that when you're talking about this, to sit. I mean, I'm pretty sure their government officials already, and well, not the government officials, maybe their intelligence uh, agencies already understand this. But what you also need to basically really communicate to the citizens of this country is that the Islamic Republic has learned over the past 47 years how to make it more and more difficult to find to destroy their uranium enrichment facilities, right? And Israel has done a very good job in delaying their ability for the Islamic Republic to become a nuclear weapon, uh, a nuclear power, but they understand that you could only delay this so much. Every time they have delayed it, the Islamic Republic has learned from what Israel is able to do, and it has spread their enrichment uranium in more places inside Iran, and they have dug deeper holes. So what you have to understand that it's easier for you to learn how to dig deeper holes than for other people to learn how to create bunker busters that go deeper. Even though United States and Israel are very advanced at technology, learning how to just go deeper underground is actually a lot more straightforward, and that's why building enrichment uranium facilities that are really really deep inside the mountains that at some point you're not going to be able to get rid of is going to be something that the Islamic Republic has. And if the Islamic Republic was a nuclear power, then it's over. It's game over, right? It would means that they will treat as the Islamic Republic like they treat North Korea, meaning that they will not be. The Islamic Republic would have a sense of safety and security, that nobody is going to be toppling them anymore, and they would be feel more secure, more safer when it comes to just exporting terrorism all around the world. And imagine what they did to the Iranian people, knowing that this is going to possibly get them a reaction out of the world to come and change, do regime change. But imagine what they would be willing to do to their own people once they think that nobody is going to come and help them out. If they were if they were a nuclear power, like imagine how much more brutal they would become if they had that level of confidence. So this is why it's completely within the interest of the entire world to get rid of the Islamic Republic, given how insistent they are to become a nuclear power. The world cannot tolerate an Islamic Republic that is a nuclear power. So this is in the best interest of the whole world. One thing else regarding Khamenei and Mirror's hiding, I don't know how true this is, but there's a lot of people from Iran who think that one of his bunkers is right underneath the Imam Reza shrine in Mashhad, thinking that it being a very important religious site for Shia Muslims around the world, would potentially make Americans or Israeli think twice before bombing it. So some Iranians think that his hiding area is under the Imam Reza shrine under Mashhad. Gary, you wanted to say something about that?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, for those of you who've not ever been to Mashhad, Arman, I think you have, but you know the underground rail system that they have there that heads then, west to Sharud and Semnan and then Tehran. There's a very significant catacomb of underground train track. And what has been known is that those have been completely, a la Gaza. Those have been built out even deeper and deeper underground, and that if you put a gun to my head and said, here you have to place your bet, not obfuscate, I would agree with you that Mashhad is the most likely place because it gives them the opportunity to escape either to Turkmenistan or into Afghanistan from there relatively easy.
Yeah, and this is completely within their. I mean, it reminds a lot of Israelis of Hamas and how they operate. By the way, like hiding
Yeah.
under places that the world would condemn if they attack. We just, by the way, also yesterday we heard from Iran that a lot of the schools are being closed. So for the IRGC and Basij units, for example, to move into, and they're leaving their bases, like their Basij bases, and their IRGC bases, because they think that US is going to bomb them, and they're moving to schools instead because they either think that they're less likely to be bombed, or if they are bombed they could basically tell the whole world that, like, oh look, Americans are bombing schools in Iran. So that's another strategy that they have. Jeffrey wanted to add something to this, right? Yeah, okay.
I'm going to touch on a lot of the points that were brought up to help tighten the shock group. So you're very right about the risk. So given the Mullah regime's pseudo-theologic motives and subsequent inelasticity surrounding their aggression, coupled with the operational impact of revolutionary disruptive technologies that make it easier to sit there and procure things like visual materials. Silex comes to mind, which is a laser-based enrichment that fits in a garage and doesn't have UF6 outgassing. It requires very little electricity. This is all in-class stuff. You cannot allow to have, the world cannot afford to have the Mullah regime continue. Now, the Mullah regime knows that. So the Mullah regime is doing everything it can to buy enough time for them to sprint across what I call the asymmetric deterrence threshold, defined as possession of ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons. So understanding all of that, U.S. strikes, all the open intelligence indicators show we're getting ready to do a pretty comprehensive strike on the Mullah regime. And it's not going to be nothing akin. It's going to make, from what I'm looking at, with the assets we have in the region, if we pull that trigger, it's going to make the opening bombing campaigns in the U.S.-led military intervention in Iraq look like a very shitty, low-end, like, fireworks show. You are going to see shock and awe proper. Donald will have that over very quickly. What are the target sets they'd probably look at? So they're going to do SEED, so suppression of enemy air defense, which means integrated air and missile defense, strategic radar, WMD stockpiles, TELs, which are transporter erectile launchers, meaning trucks where you put your missiles on to launch them. The missile cities kind of set in the open intelligence assessments of where they're located, because there's a lot of missiles under there. Areas, regime leadership is definitely going to be in that target set. So as the IRGC and Besiege HQs, which is why the IRGC and Besiege have dispersed all their centers of gravity, right? They're also putting their people in places of civilian and or sociocultural importance, with the idea of leveraging a tactical victory, kinetic victory, where we drop bombs on targets, into a soft power strategic, defeat and or liability, because they go, oh look, see, you bombed like a baby milk factory, like what Saddam did, when actually he buried the chemical weapon stuff underneath the baby factory. So as far as like Armin's observations regarding how we have to strike now, because, or it's in our interest, both the United States and the world's interest, for any number of different reasons, would take me too long to go through, that we should, eliminate the regime now. When he talked about like the Mullah regime has spent the past 20 plus years strategically dispersing and hardening all of their primary centers of gravity, right? That's leadership bunkers, that's places like Fort Al, Isfahan, Natanz. I want to talk about that real quick, and this kind of goes back to the red, black, and contemporary red green alliance and the role the radical left has played in facilitating that. So in 2012 at CPAC, I went and had lunch with Frank Gaffney, who is the head of Center for Security Policy, and I actually post the redacted email in the discussion board after this, and warned him of the fact that the Mullah regime has hardened its underground structures with a very particular high-end micro-reinforced ultra-high-performance concrete that was in part, in no insignificant manner, developed in conjunction with and in cooperation with leftist academicians out of Canada's universities. The excuse used was they being the Mullah regime was trying to harden, buildings against earthquakes, which is true. You can use that to harden your buildings against earthquakes. That's not what they were doing. So I just wanted to add some of that historical context to underwrite why Armin's saying what he's saying. The convergence of the operational impact of revolutionary technologies coupled with, which makes it easier for actors to procure WMDs, coupled with the Mullah regime's pseudo-theological motivation, subsequent inelasticity regarding their hostility, means that mowing the grass is not sustainable, right? Remember what the Mullah regime said, Armin? He's like, you can't destroy the facilities, but you can't destroy the technology. That's very true there, Mr. Mullah. That's why we kill the assholes that want to get it.
Perfect. They should keep. You should make them keep talking because this is actually helpful for us. I don't know why. By the way, if anybody wonders, like, why are they saying this? Don't they want to live? Like, wouldn't their saying this make the world more united to get rid of them? Like, what is the strategy here? The reason why they have to say this is because if they don't say this, they're going to be toppled by the hardliner support base they already have, right? So a lot of their activities might look insane to you. You think like, at this time, shouldn't you be like shutting up? Like, why are you inviting war? This is like the end of you. Their understanding, and I think this is correct, like this is a correct analysis by them, is that the only reason why they might have a fighting chance is the few percentage remaining support that they have, right? So you might think that the millions of Iranian people in the streets are a threat to them. You might think America and Israel attacking them are a threat to them, which they are. But the greatest threat to them above all of this is losing the small remaining percentage support that they have. So if they don't come out and say like, "Oh my God, we're going to destroy America," we're going to destroy Israel, and basically they cannot defeat us, and all of this BS that they say, if they don't say that, then they're going to lose their small remaining support that they have, and that will actually bring their end even faster than an American and Israeli attack or millions of Iranian people in the streets.
Okay, next we have Jeremy, and then following is Leonard.
And then I saw Gary also, and I saw Daniel and Gary also raise their hand as well.
Hi, Armin. I just you're asking how to angle things to appeal to other countries to make sure they support. I mean, I would have thought in terms of Israel, it's kind of overwhelming that they want to see the regime go. And also, there's an ancient bond, I believe, between Israelis and Persians, Iranians. Then there's a lot of empathy between the two people. For the Iranian people's sake, that this needs to go. But in terms of the US, to me, look, this might be my own personal conspiracy theory, but I thought the Iraq War, the main purpose of that was to empower the Iranian regime, and so the Iranian regime could go and do the US, well, to work for the US to attack radical Sunni Islamists. And I think I've heard, and it sounds believable to me, that the Obama policy was to, I mean, there's been a long-standing, China is very important to the US, and I think there's a pivot towards China, and the US wants to withdraw its resources from the Middle East. And to do that, it needs someone to do the job for it. I think, from what I understand, Obama's policy was to empower Iran, to have Iran do its job for it in the Middle East, and to diminish Israel to make that possible. And it's only been lately that the US has been looking more to Israel and Turkey to do its job for it in the Middle East so that it can withdraw resources from there. And I guess the other, so I mean, but to me, it's logical that if the Islamic regime would go, Iran eventually would get powerful and would be a really good ally, I would have thought, for the US, and also be a counterbalance to things that the IRGC was a counterbalance to. And the other thing the US, I think, is important for the US is that it wants to compete with China's Belt and Rail, whatever it's called, project, with a pipeline from India to Europe, and it needs to have stability in that area to move its pipeline through. Like that, I think that's why it's betrayed the Kurds in Syria, is because it sees that it can have a friendly, stable regime if Jelani takes over to put its pipeline through. So a big issue is having all the chaos that people are scare tactic saying what's going to happen if you remove the IRGC. There's just going to be chaos and disintegration, and it may not have the stability there to do projects that it wants to do. So, I mean, to me, they're the big things that I'm guessing, I've got no idea, that the US people who don't want this to happen would be arguing against.
So I don't agree with that, because because the a Shia empire, a Shia order is worse for United States than a Sunni one, in my opinion. So I think that you're replacing a greater evil with a smaller one if you allow the Islamic Republic to have control over main areas in the Middle East. The Sunni militias and terrorist groups, they don't have a country. They don't have. I mean, they're trying to bring back the caliphate, but they're not able to do that. There's not like among all the more important countries, the Islamic countries, states right now, they have completely given into the Western nation state model. Even if they're not a democracy, they're still somewhat following that model of nation states, rather than empires, right? So, for example, among all Sunni countries like Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Pakistan, they don't have an imperial agenda. They're on a nation state model, right? They're not trying to expand their borders. They actually very much are benefiting from this new global order that came about after World War II with the backing of the US military. So I know like ISIS and Al Qaeda are trying to bring back a caliphate or something like that. But the leaders of all Sunni Islamic countries, they're pretty much content with basically taking advantage of the stability of this new world order that is being backed up by the US military, because they're benefiting from it, and they don't want to change this model because that would mean that they would be losing their position of power that they have in. So the Sunni world, if we have these radicals coming out of them, what you get is just terrorist activities, which are a problem, but they're not as big of a problem as what we have in Iran with the Islamic Republic, which is basically a governing force with the agenda of world domination and expanding its influence beyond its borders, and bringing a Shia imperial, bringing up Shia imperialism, like not a caliphate like the Sunnis want, but an imamate, right? Their goal is to, like, the leaders of Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they're not trying to like capture Tel Aviv or Jerusalem and then eventually Washington DC, but the leaders of the Islamic Republic, they want to do that, right? So trying to fight against Sunni Islamic militias and replacing them with a so-called governing power that actually has oil and gas revenue, uh, that is basically trying to eventually one day topple Washington D.C. and add it to its Islamic empire. So to me that seems like idiotic, right? That's a much bigger problem, and the IRGC itself is like a much bigger source of instability. Like even the Sunni instability that you see came about because of the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Like they are the cause of it. They are the main source of all the instability, whether it's Shia or Sunni. Like they are, even though they're Shia and many Sunnis don't see eye to eye with them, they have used the Palestinian cause as a way to create a point of unity, even with the Sunni terrorist groups. I mean, Hamas, for example, is Sunni, but their main backer is the Islamic Republic, which is Shia Muslim. So if you're worried about instability, the IRGC is the main source of instability, whether Shia or Sunni. So it doesn't make sense to see IRGC as a stabilizing force. They're the main destabilizing force in the Middle East and beyond that. Does that make sense, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm not quite as optimistic, but I think Gary was shaking his head a lot when I was talking. You might want to say something.
Wait, what do you mean optimistic? I didn't say anything. How would I say was even described as optimistic? I'm showing it.
On what you're talking about, the IRGC. I mean, there's a
What I'm saying is not opinion. What I'm saying is fact. This is not opinions. These are facts. These are established facts.
about the IRGC. Yes, I'm a bit more concerned, I guess, about what's happening in reaction to possible fall of the IRGC with the Turkish Saudi Pakistan alliance, and the way that Saudi seems to be moving away from its no Islamic radical policy to now becoming more allied with
That
the Muslim Brotherhood. I see the Muslim
okay.
Brotherhood as a big problem.
Okay. So first of all, Saudi Arabia, look, so that is completely wrong. Okay, so they're not aligning with the Muslim Brotherhood. They're becoming more economically closer with leaders of countries who are more in line with the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, so that is, let's be more accurate about what we're saying. Okay, because Saudi Arabia cannot afford supporting radicalism anymore at all. The reason the moves that you're seeing that they're making, they're desperate to diversify their economy from oil and gas. So they're basically economically getting close to whoever does trade with them. That doesn't mean that they're going to be supporting radical like terrorist activities. That would be the end. That would be they're doing everything they possibly can to act like they're moving away from that because they need to. Because if they even touch that toxic stuff, that is going to drive away capital from Saudi Arabia so fast, and they're basically trying to do a rebranding for their Vision 2030. There's no way that they're going to be touching those types of activities, right, at all. But Gary, you wanted to add to that?
Well, first of all, if I can say, Jeff, you were the kind of person that people told me to stay away from when I was pursuing my career in U.S. Foreign Service and graduate school. I love hearing your stuff, man. But Jeremy, just a couple of points. One is that the era of frozen diplomacy is over, and that Mossad agent known as Yahya Sinwar is the one who made that happen. He actually was a Mossad agent. I'm being humorous, and I shouldn't be. Europe, before the United States was even a vision in anybody's mind, European diplomacy was such an intricate and annoying construct. It just froze everything until people built a big enough armada to kill everybody that they were debating with. Now, that European diplomacy, that frozen diplomacy concept that ended as the French and the British empires in the Middle East collapsed, um, that is now a thing of the past. And there is one very humorous thing that just came across the wire within the past 45 minutes to past hour and a half, is that a group of EU MPs announced jointly that they thought that the overthrow of the Iranian regime is probably They use the word probably, a good idea. Okay, so with that very bold statement from Europe, um, Jeremy, I have to tell you, the changes that you're seeing right now are massive. They're just cataclysmic, and putting up with EU obstinance is really over with. It's just really over with. The focus now really is on economic coexistence, and you can be like Turkey and what the Saudis are saying and what Iraqis are intimating and what the Syrian president may be intimating. You can suggest that you'll maintain this radical Islamist threat in the background, and bring out your knives and backstab everybody you can get to. But the reality is that from Israel to Azerbaijan and then Kazakhstan to Kashmir and India, there is more than a kernel now of economic coexistence, not brotherly love, not brotherly love, but economic coexistence that Iran will fit beautifully into. Okay, the EU does not see it this way, but they will, is my prediction, eventually. That may be sometime after the Messiah reappears, but they'll get there. Okay, the reality is that we're living in a hypersonic world. You can launch something from anywhere you want, whether it's a plane, a commercial jet, or a missile, from one part of the globe to the other side, and you can be there in 24 minutes. The reality is that peaceful economic coexistence is sustainable. That is the underlying subterfuge here. And when you talked about the pivot to China, the U.S. doesn't have to pivot anymore to China, because between Kazakhstan and Kashmir and India, the U.S. CENTCOM can be in India in a matter of 4.5 minutes anytime it wants to. So the pivot to China is already accomplished by what we're accomplishing in Central Asia without people even being aware of it. So we're not going to rely on the Turks or the Saudis to take care of the Middle East. That would be like leaving an arsonist to help put out the fire. That's not going to happen. So I hope that kind of hung together. And Armin, thank you for letting me ramble. And Jeff, keep that coming, man. I love it.
No, Gary, I like to actually let you ramble because it actually adds a lot of value. And
Jeffrey, do you
by the
have a
way,
response to that, or are you looking to be added to the list?
I can add to it if you'd like.
yes,
So Gary's very correct in the sense that the operational impact of global socioeconomic and technological trends has undermined the ability of actors to live in the world and live apart from it. What are those trends? Advancements in transportation technology, which minimize something called the loss of strength, rate, and stopping power of water. Advancements in telecommunications information technology, which minimize transaction costs regarding information. And up until recently, a ever integrated post-industrial knowledge-based society and increasingly integrated globalized economy. We're delinking. I'll get to that in a second. What are the 4 takeaways? The resource threshold that an actor needs to meet to make significant impact on the world system is increasingly being lowered. The scope of that impact no longer stays local. The amount of time you have between an actor plans a course of action and implements a course of action been reduced. You have no warning time. And the amount of time you have between an actor implements a course of action and the impact of that action reaches its maximum point of impact or apogee has been reduced, so you have no response time. So what does that mean? It means you can no longer wait for threats to present themselves for you to respond to them, because now even a very small actor can obtain what used to be called like a knockout blow, right? The Mullah regime, when I did the report, the post-strike report, after President Trump rightly and decisively struck Fordow, Isfahan, and Tunц, and he did that for the reasons I mentioned in the previous show, right? Which is, it wasn't just to save Israelis, although it was to do that. It was also to short circuit the chain of escalation so it would also save Iranians. So that's true. He short circuited the chain of escalation when it came to traditional approaches towards weapons proliferation. Tragically, just like that Mullah douchebag said, oh, you cannot kill the technology. Yeah, it's true there, Mr. Mullah. It's true. The operational impact of revolutionary technologies allows people to reconstitute or obtain that capability much more quickly. That's why we focus on going after the bad guys that want to get it, because the operation impact of those trends that I talked about, along with revolutionary technologies that minimize things like lateral and horizontal proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the ability to mass produce and or deliver them, means you can't allow bad guys to get the time to get those capabilities. The Mullah regime has to go. As far as like economic interdependence, so I think the other guy he was mentioning, and he's not wrong. So he's saying other actors in the region are concerned about insecurity flows if the IRGC and the Mullah regime are taken down or toppled, and the overlap between those insecurity flows would have on foreign direct investment, and how that issue is co-opted by, say, ANCATs or those who stand to make money on ensuring the status quo. Think about douchebags under the previous Obama administration that played a direct role in creating the JCP, that boondoggle, the JCPOA or Iran deal. And then after Obama's second term was busted, many of them busted in violating, say, the Logan's Act by being an unregistered agent of influence for the Mullah regime to undermine President Trump's first term's policy of containment and or punishing the Mullah regime, disempowering them. Think of John Kerry in 2019 as Exhibit A. So he's not wrong in the sense that that's a concern, and there are those that are very much those actors that have perverse incentive to ensure the status quo exists and aren't exhibiting their every bit of their influence and power to probably undermine the United States taking a decisive military response to the Mullah regime's increasingly hostile and inelastic aggression against both our nation, our president, and the region and the world. I'm saying that the operational realities underwritten by those global socioeconomic and technological trends, along with a lot of other things, which I don't want to go into because I'd be taking too much time, is underwriting almost assuredly why even people who are hard realists like Vance saying we have to hit them. Not saying it is an issue that you shouldn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just want to add something. Like, whatever short-term chaos that this is going to cause, the toppling of the Islamic Republic, at the end of the day, the long-term results is that an agent of chaos is now losing access to oil and gas money, and the replacing government is going to have access to oil and gas money that is probably going to be spent on a military and an intelligence operation that is going to be neutralizing terrorist groups in the region. So that is the long-term result of all of this. All right. Oh, did Jeffrey wanted to be added to the list, or do you want to respond to this?
Real quick. So add to that also removing the Mullah regime, given the organization operational ties between the Mullah regime and Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state and the Chinese Communist Party, and the fact that the Mullah regime sells heavy crude to the Chinese Communist Party to underwrite the energy requirements that the Chinese Communist Party is using to recklessly compete, military industrially compete with the United States. Removing the Mullah regime is not only going to stabilize the world in the manner that you said, that's very true. It also reduces the relative comprehensive national power between the autocratic bloc and the United States-led Western alliance. In other words, removing the Mullah regime also undermines the ability of Putin and Xi to further fund or support their respective acts of belligerency in their own theaters, whether that be Europe or Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it's bloody obvious,
right.
but it's bloody obvious for a long time. So why has the US only this year decided to go for regime change?
Well, because the Iranian people were not there yet as a force because the Iranian people have now proven with their level of bravery and determination that there's an alternative to the Islamic Republic. They have demonstrated that. Prince Reza Pahlavi has demonstrated that. The Iranian people have demonstrated that they are united with each other for something. So it's so far upon this point, it was very clear to everybody that the Iranian people are anti-Islamic Republic, but it hasn't been clear if they are united for something else that is an alternative to Islamic Republic that could stabilize everything. Now that is clear.
Do you think the American administration backs Pahlavi?
They're not going to. I think they're going to. I think what they're noticing is that the Iranian people want Pahlavi, and Pahlavi is pro-America and pro-Israel. I don't think they could come out openly say they're for Pahlavi because they don't want to seem like Pahlavi is their puppet. What they're publicly saying is they're going to be supporting whatever the Iranian people decide, and if that is what they support, eventually the Iranian people are going to want Pahlavi back. But so Gary, just quickly say, and because I know other people have been waiting to speak for a very long time. So Gary.
Yes, and thanks. And Jeremy, I think the best way to delegitimize Prince Pahlavi is for President Trump to say this guy is great.
Right.
Perfect way to delegitimize him.
Right. I think President Trump did the wise thing of saying, when they asked him what he thinks of this Pahlavi, he said, like, well, I think he's a good guy, but I don't know. With the Iranian people are going to make the decision. I think that was a pretty wise response. That's what he should be responding. And by the way, guys, again, for people who are new here, the way to speak is to click the reaction button at the bottom of the screen, click the hand raise icon, and then BT will add you to the list. So, guys, let's go to Leonard because he's been
Without
waiting
further
for
ado, Leonard, I'm so
Yeah.
happy to call
Leonard.
you.
Sorry, Leonard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, hello everyone. Hello, Armin. Thank you for your attention and your time. Just before I ask my question, a small thing to say. I like watching. I wish we wouldn't have to watch it, but I guess I'll stay with I like watching your joint streams with Goldie. It's very important to have this viewable in the English language for everyone to understand. Yes, a round of cheers for everyone. Yes, in the chat. If you're just listening intently, this is the time to cheer. Thank you, Armin. Thank you, Goldie. I think, by the way, that the combination of both of you is very interesting because you complement each other in various ways. You're relentless, and Goldie's focused. She's aiming for the PG-13 version, and you're no holds barred type of guy, which I understand. I'm from Israel, and today I got to take off of my wrist the band that I had since October 23. I think if anything, today's date will be remembered, at least in history, to some extent. This is the end of our war that began so much time ago.
Can you tell people? Can you tell people why you for
Yes,
people who might not know here?
the
Why?
final right, the the final body that has been held captive by Hamas has been returned and identified today. I did not believe we will get here, but here we are. I have to find a hat to eat. So yes, so this is definitely a date to remember. And also, this is 30 days in a row that you and Goldie have been working endlessly. And I'm, again, like I said, I'm happy to watch you stream because a lot of things that were foreign concepts to me are now, being brought to the forefront. And that's, as I said, important. With that, I wanted to ask about what we just saw before this discussion group started. There was this propaganda film with the Mexican music, the drone hype film that they had. So I'm a bit puzzled at what's happening, because you see people in the background. They sit there as audience. The person who's the on the mic, let's call it, he's covering his face, sure, but a lot of them in the audience, they're like ordinary people. You see them, and in other marches that they have that are pro the Islamists, they will, I don't know how to say it exactly,
So
but
let me quickly tell people who might not know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Leonard is referring to a propaganda video by the Islamic Republic where they were displaying their drones to show how powerful they were. They were very impressed by the loud noises that they were making, and there was like this was shown on state TV by the Islamic Republic, and there were ordinary people within the audience basically clapping and were impressed by the drones. Okay, but go on.
correct. And you can call me George. And the thing is that sure the actual, I mean, the worst of the criminals, right? The ones that are on the list on the website that is being created to track those who were, let's say, like Pahlavi ordered, to track those who did the evil things. The worst of the worst, they are being tracked. But the people who are on the streets protesting, or like okay, one more example. Sorry, when Khamenei has his sermon, there are thousands of people listening to it and bowing down, whatever, and praying with him. These people remain Iranian, right? And they remain in Iran, and they were low key for the regime while it benefited them. And let's say we skip a few months or years in the future, things have turned, and now what? They're back to regular lives, and in their hearts, isn't there still this sort of anti whatever, like or like pro what the life used to be? So I want to wrap up my non-question so far with an example, and then my question will begin. In Inglorious Bastards, there's this scene where they catch a Nazi criminal and they interrogate him. And they say, "What are you going to do now that the war's over?" And he says, "I'll go home, hug my mom." And they said, "What will you do with your Nazi uniform?" And he says, "I'm going to burn it." And they tell him, "I'm going to give you something that you can't take off." So this is maybe a bit of Tarantino's harsh way to exemplify that some people will be living in Iran after this revolution succeeds, and it will succeed. And it's similar to Yemen. People call death to America, death to Israel, death to Jews, happy la di da, whatever. But as soon as some regime changes there, they're gonna be like, "Oh, okay, I'm good with life as it is." Like, how do you recognize, or how do you live with
I don't
people
think-
like that among you afterwards?
Yeah, I don't think
And
people are, but the
that's it.
difference between what you saw in that movie and now is that we have phones and internet, and people have left a record. Like all of these people, most of them at least are active on social media, and they have, I mean, like the video that you're referring to, we have all their faces on TV, and their people know them. Everyone who has a history of supporting the Islamic Republic. I don't think they're going to be able to just go back into society to pretend like, oh, okay, now I'm just going to live normal lives anymore. I think a lot of people are going to remember them supporting the regime, and I think they're going to hold them accountable, especially after the mass slaughter that we have seen happening. And by the way, I hope you understand that these are a small minority of Iran, like not even the vast majority of very religious Iranians support. Like I'm talking about like praying, fasting, Hajj going, chador wearing Iranians who are considered themselves like Quran reading, Nahjul Balagha reading Iranians. Even if you just zoom in on those, the majority of those people are even anti-regime. Like I'm not talking about like average religious people. I'm talking about like uber religious people. Even they, I think so many of them are anti the Islamic Republic. I mean, they're still going to have a hard time defending Shia Islam after what we just saw happen in Iran. But I think the main people who have to be worried about their position in society after the fall of the regime are not the Muslims, are people who supported the regime. And I think a lot of them are going to be held accountable. I don't think a lot of them are going to be safe, honestly, based on the amount of anger that we're seeing by Iranian people. I think a lot of Iranian people consider the people who supported the regime, even if they weren't participating in killing people, they have blood on their hands. And I don't know how what's going to happen to them, but I don't think it's going to be back to normal for them. But at least the good thing is that they're a small minority of the Iranian population. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It sort of does. You did speak earlier about these 12-day nationalists, and I think that those are people you're also referring to. Again, after everything is said and done, they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't murder anyone. I didn't kill anyone. I was just there. I just clapped in the audience. They told me to clap at the vacuum cleaner drone." And they'll try to make it a point that I was forced to do that. They told me to pray with Khamenei or I will be executed. I was with all of you brothers, So it's for me. It's
I don't
hard
think you can say that because it's not like that. Like, I mean, we know it's not like that. It's not like, I mean, as cruel as the regime is, they're not going to say come clap or we'll execute you. These people did have a choice. It's not that extreme. So these people, all of them had a choice, and they chose to support the Islamic Republic.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and I hope for the best.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Daniel Dome, and then Gary and Babak.
Hey, good evening. Did somebody checked on no,
Mosul?
On the news of Israel? No, Ynet. They wrote something like, let me just quickly translate it.
Guys, have your questions ready so when we get to you, we get to the point.
Yeah, so it was USA. Iran knows our conditions, and if they call us, like they wrote, if they will contact us, we could talk. Now,
so this is
I
from
believe,
who? From Trump?
It's from USA. It's not actually like they wrote USA. They didn't refer it directly to Trump. And I believe we are about to start seeing slow Macarena.
Wait, say that again.
I think we are gonna watch the slow Macarena goes.
Yeah, right. So guys, this is a tactic that both United States and the Islamic Republic are using. They both are trying to, like, the Islamic Republic uses negotiation as a way to in their opinion, trick the United States into thinking that, oh, like there's a chance that we're going to stop enrichment of uranium. So United States also uses the same strategy all the time. Like you saw during the 12-day war, the Trump attacked Fordo.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say. Like when they say if Iran will contact, but the if is dependent whether they would be able to.
Yeah, so let me finish the point, because when they say if, the conditions that they have put are things that the Islamic Republic will never agree to. One of the conditions is, for example, for the Islamic Republic to recognize the state of Israel. Okay, that's never going to happen. Or basically stop enrichment of uranium completely, and like this and that. It's an impossible list, right? But at the same time, they need to make sure that there are some people within the Islamic Republic who think there's a chance, that the war might not happen, for them to keep working on trying to, like, talk to the Americans to convince them to not attack. This is the understanding that, and the Islamic Republic does this with the United States as well. They're like, oh, let's negotiate over enrichment of uranium. These are our conditions, trying to trick America to think like there's a chance where the Islamic Republic is not going to go nuclear, and they think that they are successful at, like, tricking America to believe this, and then use the negotiations to buy time. But at the end of the day, United States does the same thing to them, use negotiations to keep the Islamic Republic officials divided. Some of the reformers might be hopeful that they could talk to America to hold them back. So you need to keep your enemy. You need to make sure that your enemy is, still guessing, like it's not 100% certain about what you're going to do. So that's why they need to keep the line of communication open, just to make sure that they're not 100% sure about what you're about to do. And again, what I was saying is, like, during the 12-day war, the Islamic Republic was negotiating with Trump, thinking that the negotiations means that they're not going to be attacking while the United States is not going to be attacking while we're in the middle of the negotiations. And the United States, right in the middle of the negotiations, Trump bombed Fordo, Natanz, and the nuclear site in Isfahan.
Armin,
I
to that
have
point, may
sorry.
I ask, everybody is talking about the weekends, right? Oh, the weekend, the stock market. And I get that. However, isn't that a little predictable? And would you be surprised if there were a midweek attack?
No, I wouldn't be, because maybe maybe because people expect it to be on a weekend, maybe that would mean that they're going to do it not on a weekend. Or maybe because people think that, oh, it's always on a weekend, so they're going to surprise us and make it on a midday attack, then maybe it's going to be on a weekend again, because the people maybe not expecting for them to do the same thing again, because that would be too predictable. So the unpredictable thing would be to do the predictable thing, because nobody predicts that you're going to be doing the predictable thing.
You are giving Princess Bride right now, I have to say.
I mean, another question is, is there any helping outcome of these conversations, like in the matter of the revolution? Like, do
Say
you
that
think
again.
so? Is 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 there any help out of these conversations? Like,
Oh,
do you think there
so
is an
are you saying,
outcome?
are these conversations helpful?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. So that's why we're recording it. So here's what here's what needs to happen. Okay. Right now, we're not just in a military battle. We're also in a battle of narratives. This is information war. Okay. So this is why the Islamic Republic, this is how we know that this is helpful, because the Islamic Republic wouldn't be investing so much money misinforming non-Iranians about what's happening unless this was important. So the fact that the Islamic Republic is trying so hard to misinform Israelis, Americans, Canadians, Europeans, so it must be important for people to be aware of what's happening. It must be against the interest of the Islamic Republic for more people to be having a more accurate information about what's going on. Or else it wouldn't be making sense for them to be spending on all of this propaganda. So that's how we know this is good to inform people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'm not sure how many people watch these recordings on YouTube.
Well, this is how this isn't. You shouldn't be thinking about how if everybody, because it's not just us. You have to be part of the solution. You can Nobody can think. Nobody can expect themselves to be the solution. Everybody should be part of the solution. And if you're part of the solution, then your work alongside, because we're not alone. It's not just us doing this. It's us and thousands of other people. Like, why is it that people's view of Iranian people and what they stand for has changed? It's not our shows, but it's our shows and many other people doing the same thing, and they all add up together, and together they have an effect. So don't look at what you're doing in isolation. Just be, even if you're a small part of the solution, you contribute your contribution alongside everyone else's contribution. It will make a big difference. I mean, the fact that the Islamic Republic's narrative has failed is because of this and many other people doing the exact same thing. So don't look at it in isolation.
Well, and also I had that good feeling this morning. I watched a Tusi report, and he was actually talking about stuff we were talking at the night before before his report. Like, no, sorry, it was a report like from the night. So basically, he was talking about the same stuff we were talking about. So that
Exactly.
was like
Also, by the way, like when we talk here, I don't come here just to tell you things. I'm here also learning from you guys, right? And I've been talking on YT News. I've talked on Talk TV. I managed to convince Tommy Robinson that this revolution is not just against the Islamic Republic, is also for Pahlavi. And when I talked to him about that, then right after we talked to him about that in our show, he started posting in favor of Pahlavi as well. So that's a big influence. I talked on I-24. I talked on JNS with Emily Schrader. I just talked in Channel 12 of Israel. I just talked there as well. So, even if our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel might not have that big of a reach, but because of the work you guys do and because of the support that you guys have given me, I managed to go to talk in all of these places that has a much bigger audience, right?
oh, and about the 12 news. Did you know
Last point, because we need to go to the
posted,
list after this.
yeah, they
Go on.
posted a picture of a girl and that was claiming that she's Jewish Iranian, and then this girl sitting in Tel Aviv was posting her video on Instagram like, dude, I'm not in Iran, I'm Israeli, I'm here in Tel Aviv.
No, I didn't see that. But also, by the way, guys, also please don't underestimate your influence. Sohail, who is just an average Iranian in Germany, sent me a link to to Tucker Carlson being translated into Persian and being shown on state TV. So this is just one person. He sent it to me. I sent it to Goldie. Goldie played it, and now that was being tweeted out by Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz was talking about that on Fox News. So imagine Sohail as somebody with no media, not a single YouTube channel, just by doing that, managed to get Ted Cruz speak about how Tucker Carlson is being used as a propaganda inside Iran. See, a small act could actually have a huge influence. Anyway, so
Okay, next we
let's move
have
on.
Gary.
Gary.
All right. So I know you want to know which day of the week it's going to be. Okay. I can promise you this. Number one, it won't be a day, it'll be a night for obvious reasons. Okay. So that cuts down your window for the attacks by 50% right there. Secondly, it will be a day that ends in the word day. Okay. That will be the day of the attack. But secondly, for those of you who follow meteorology, I want you to go on your Weather Channel app right now and look at the winds over Iran. Okay, so right now in Iran, it is, oh gosh, I can't tell what time. It's pretty close to midnight, I think. So right now over Iran, there are no winds, zero. There are breezes. So the winds coming off the Caspian are heading north-south from Russia and stopping at the Elbours. The winds over the Persian Gulf are heading southward. There are no winds over that same pathway that Israel took to get into northwestern Iran. There are no winds once you cross over into Iran. Now, I'm not an airline pilot. Okay, I'm not a jet fighter pilot, but I will tell you this: when people ask my opinion of when to do something where you have machines in the air and they're going to drop something that requires non-jostling to do it just right, I would say that right now is the right time. I hope that's helpful. It's not like you look at the Islamic calendar, okay, and see which imam was assassinated or which one gave birth to a baby daughter or whatever. You don't look at that. You just look. It's nighttime. You look at what's the weather, what are the winds, what's the precipitation. Right now, there ain't no precipitation over East or West Azerbaijan province. There is no wind over Kurdistan province or Elam or Kermanshah. Um, if I were the president of the United States, and I am not, tonight would be the night. And I
I'm
saw
just
somebody
sorry.
was holding up an app.
Yeah, that was Ynet, and they actually writing that New York Times.
Hold on.
Um,
Let's go back to like
yeah,
we could talk about that later because I don't want to. I
yeah.
want to
Never
make sure
mind.
that when yeah,
I just was
just put
adding
it
to
in the chat.
Jerry.
Put it in the chat
Thank you.
because I don't want to interrupt. Like because we're recording this, I don't want Gary's thought to be interrupted by something else, right? But Gary, like what I've heard is that I don't know if this is true that it requires a lot more preparation and testing and is that not because we're possibly are entering a higher scale of like a head-to-head confrontational war. There's going to be some drills, there's going to be some more gathering of information, so some people were suggesting that this is actually going to take a lot longer than a lot of people are anticipating, like the preparation phase of it. Is that not accurate?
In the lead up to Iraq, you needed to get a long lead up time to get troops on the ground. And there were hundreds of thousands of soldiers. This is not going to be hundreds of thousands of soldiers operation. Um,
Mm.
and, being a civilian with no security clearance, in terms of what I'm aware of in terms of U.S. assets, being from anywhere in Kurdish Iraq all the way down to Diego Garcia, the only thing I could ask for right now would be a Diet Coke. I mean, it's really up it's up to the president.
Okay. All right. Let's go through the list. By the way, BT, I also like when you give us your opinions or questions. I enjoy those as well. So feel free to don't just moderate. Feel free to participate as well.
I am so far out of my league this time, Armin. Not that I'm not usually, but no, I
Oh,
think we're best served hearing everyone who's speaking so far today, but thank you. So next we have Mr. Babak and then Jeffrey, Richard, and our Nail Bunny Bun.
okay. Actually, let me before Babak speaks, guys. Don't be intimidated by Jeffrey and Gary. Okay, so you don't have to speak at their level to be able to participate. Okay. So I know they're really high level and they might intimidate you and think like you need to have the same level of analysis to be able to participate. Okay, that's not the case. Okay, but I mean we appreciate them, but like okay, but Babak, go ahead.
Hi, Armin. Nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you.
Sorry if my voice is a little shaky today. I've been crying a lot because the shit coming out of the news and everything. It broke me. It did. My question is and it's directly to you, Armin. I want you to go into this because you are the one with the knowledge of geopolitics. There are countries helping the Iranian regime like China, Russia. I mean, even soldiers put in by Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on. But how does the picture look right now? How bad is it? That's my question.
Wait, can you explain again? I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, so the Iranian government is getting a lot of support from Russia,
Are
China,
they?
and so on. That's what I've heard. They
Wait,
Russia is
let me
employing technology weapons to them. China is giving them. I, I haven't understand if it's weapons or foot
let
soldiers or
me
what.
let's actually get I think I actually haven't heard what they have been sending. So let's see if Jeffrey knows about this. Jeffrey, have the Chinese and the Russians been helping the Islamic Republic right now, other than the jammers and just like strongly worded letters? Are they actually supporting the Islamic Republic from a militarily?
So, I mean, I can't say with any 100 degree, any like 100, well, no analyst would ever say something like this is 100% true. I can speak with relative levels of confidence and probability. We do know that there was, I think, just a couple of days ago, 16 Chinese Communist Party military cargo aircraft that landed. and that, you game out, okay, what are the things that the Mullah regime might want to have, and how big are they, and how much can you put on that plane, and so you can give guesstimates of what they might have done. If I can give you definitive stuff, if I knew that, I wouldn't say it. And I'm just saying that, is there a possibility? Yes. Can I give you a definitive probability or confidence? No.
So my guess would be, if they are hull playing, they're just selling some equipment that the Islamic Republic might be needing right now, but they're not going to become actively involved. If the maximum that they would be doing is just like,
No, I
oh,
don't think that,
you want to
like,
buy
Putin's,
these? Yeah.
I don't
Go on.
think that Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state of the Chinese Communist Party are going to put military personnel on the ground. I find that to
Yeah.
be a very low order probability. I wouldn't put it past them giving them things like TELs or low-end anti-aircraft stuff, not because it would be effective. You're right about the training in the previous one. The idea would be probably to try and bleed us out of our long-range strike munitions, because we'd have to allocate a JRASM or something to it. At least that's what they're thinking. I would contend their thinking is very much incorrect, and I'll just leave it
Yeah,
at that.
you like it's like, you're dying anyways. Let's make money out of you as much as possible before you're gone.
Well, or like the Chi-Coms are like, wow, they know the United States' strategy to deter them invading Taiwan requires a certain amount of missiles, because there was like a war game that came out and said, okay, it's going to take 5,000 long-range strike munitions, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, let's just make the cost of hitting the Mullah regime as expensive as it can be with the least amount of stuff. We'll give them shitty Dashuka or like, anti-aircraft machine guns, and hopefully the United States would allocate a $1 million missile. Not going to happen. Like, I promise you, Pete's not going to let that happen. So,
Okay, all right.
Armin,
So,
can I just say
Okay, the
something
last
in addition?
Oh,
Oh,
so,
yeah, yeah.
sorry.
so
I just want to say something in addition to what Jeffrey said, because I actually have been looking at flight radar for like quite some time. I've been tracking a lot of airplanes. I'm sorry that I have to say this, but I actually emailed you, Armin, about this with screenshots. There's planes coming in. They're Fly Dubai airplanes that are coming in from Russia, technically supposed to be landing in Dubai, but they are landing in Tehran, Mashhad, and Kerman. And I have screenshots of them landing and leaving. So technically, they just turn off their signals for a short time. There was actually a news uh, post that I saw probably a week ago saying that China had sent airplanes, which we don't know what was inside because they were just sent by China. So there could have been military equipment somehow. They're not obviously going to come out and explicitly say we are supporting them, but I've seen this and I have official screenshots of airplanes that I've seen that they are Fly Dubai airplanes. Fly Dubai should not even be involved in something like this. Why are 5 different aircraft flying in from Russia every night? And it's not just one night, it's throughout the week. And it's very suspicious.
okay, Jeffrey wanted to talk about that, or
yeah,
we
she's
move on?
touching base on the point that I mentioned, which is it's true that there are open intelligence reports that signal, and she did her own open intelligence assessment, which, I mean, Camilla, if I'm pronouncing that right, very good on you. Like, that's very useful. So it's true that you have, like, this is again a couple of days ago. I'm just using that as a snapshot. 16, military cargo aircraft from China landed in Iran. So it's true. Like, it could be, I don't know what's on the plane. You could say, okay, what would the Mullah regimes want? Okay, this is kind of the stuff they'd want given what our, our approach to strike them might be, blah, blah, blah. And this is what you can fit on the plane. And the idea of Putin or Xi almost assuredly in part is, well, they're not going to save the Mullah regime. They just want to make it as expensive as possible regarding our long range munitions to take them out. My point is that there's a reason, and I'm so glad Pete is SecDef. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth did what he did to rebuild our national defense industrial base. I'm going to tie this in on something because somebody asked this question. Why is it taking so long? So, why didn't we do this like years ago? So you have the damage that was caused to our force projection by different administrations, right? All the way back to Clinton, who reduced our force projection from a 2+ MTW, which is 2 major theaters of war, 2 desert storms, plus a little extra, to a 1-1-1 policy: 1 desert storm, 1 Bosnia, 1 Somalia. Under W, he was in the process of reconstituting that. Then we had the terror attacks of September 11th, and we got, had to deal with the global war on terror. And that came at the cost of resources and doctrine by investing in, capabilities that were designed to deal with extra state security concerns. In other words, the United States, a state actor, versus sub-state transnational actors that were very much rogue regime supported, not the least of which is the Mullah regime, which is one of the reasons why Donald killed Soleimani. You had Obama come in. He cut funding, though I will give Obama a nod when he used drones against our adversaries. While I hated Obama, that was one policy I very much appreciated. Donald, after that, started to rebuild our military due to diminished stocks and things that went bad, weapon systems that wore out due to surges and increased depreciation rate and all this other stuff. Biden comes in with all the mess that was there. And even the policies that were good, like the CHIPS Act, were very much undermined by Obama retreads and radical leftists co-opting and undermining the efficacy of those policies with all this wokest horseshit. So right now, Pete has spent the past year undoing that, and why we've had a World War II level style reinvestment in our national defense industrial base, with a very particular focus on building out our production capability regarding critical munitions like long range strike, and or finding comparable munitions. This is like Lucky, Lucky. He's a cool guy, Lucky. He came up with his Barracuda version of JRASM. So that's the part right there. Add to that the geopolitical and geostrategic environment is a complex adaptive system, meaning it's fluid and ever changing, and all actors, good and bad, engage in competitive adaptation. This is kind of borne out by the fact that the current operational environment is defined by different members of the autocratic bloc coordinating their efforts. Oh, you're getting ready to hit Iran. We're going to sit there and, the Chi-Coms are going to put more pressure on Taiwan. Putin's doing stuff in Europe. They think that they can leverage that as a means to deter us by saying, well, if you got to make a choice. Again, that's true. They have to make choices. That said, there's a reason that Pete Hegseth has done what he's done. There's a reason that we're moving Ohio-class Tomahawk submarines in the region. Ohio-class Tomahawk submarines, if they launch their munitions, you're talking about, unclassed stuff. It's like each one carries 157 Tomahawk missiles. They're all launched in less than 6 minutes. If you have 4 of them, that's 500 plus Mullah targets are going to have a really bad fucking day. Add to that things like long-range strike bombers and all their other assets we put in the region. There is a lot of power there. Like when Tulsi makes the point, there is more force now in the Middle East pointed at the Mullah regime than any time in recent history, maybe even including the run-up to the first Gulf War. Yeah, that's not a joke. Like if that kicks off, the U.S. and Israelis, and they go in, I promise you the Mullah regime is going to have a really bad day. And it's not going to be, this isn't going to yeah. So there's a reason that it took us a minute, because we're putting all our pieces in place. That has nothing to do with lack of will. That's more like Donald wants to make sure it goes off without a hitch if or when he pulls that trigger. Because once that trigger is pulled, you're not going to believe what you see, at least from what I'm looking at.
All right, let's move to.
And finally, the last on the list is Richard.
I saw Crystal raise her hand as well.
Oh, thank you. I was ordering Taco Bell. Goldie planted that seed in my mind.
Okay.
Armin, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I'm just curious. So we've kind of seen a modern phenomenon of poorly informed Westerners sort of, taking sides in political conflicts, and Hamas's framing of the attempted Jewish genocide and inviting that response as some kind of political revolution got massive support, amongst Gen Zers and other, poorly informed Western youth. You had mentioned that this was probably satisfying some kind of an itch. They wanted to sort of have be a part of revolution, but without having any of the actual costs associated with it. Revolutionary fetish. I just wanted to see why you thought that we're not seeing the same phenomenon in supporting the Iranian people. If it just comes down to Jew hate, or if there's something else going on as to why that wouldn't satisfy the same fetish if that was what caused it the first time.
Right, because the narrative that has been used as a framework to basically scratch this itch for a very long time, for the past couple of decades. And by the way, Iranians are very familiar with this, because this is the same itch that the commies were trying to itch inside Iran, when they basically united with the Islamists and brought down the Pahlavi dynasty. Is the evil that they're fighting against is this global order that we're in, right? So if you want to be a revolutionary, you have to feel like you're going against like an evil and all powerful, like the biggest evil in the world, from a commie mindset. The nothing short of the world order that we're in is good enough, right? So, and the Iranian revolution doesn't fit that narrative. If you are a supporter of United States and allies of United States like Israel, then you don't fit that narrative, right? So the revolution that you want to be in is a revolution for a completely new world order. And the world order that we're in is being backed and supported by the United States and, in their mind, Zionism and, basically US allies around the world. So the Iranian people do not, that revolution must be a fake revolution, not even a real revolution. That revolution is probably in their minds is like a Mossad or CIA operation to take attention away from the real revolution, which is the axis of resistance, which is the Palestinian cause, which is anti-American, anti-Zionist. So you can't, if you're backing one of these, you can't be backing the other one, because one of them is again. I mean, the Iranian people hate the Palestinian. Sometimes I'm convinced that the Iranian people hate the Palestinian cause more than Israelis. Like sometimes it feels like that, right? So how could you, if you have already been participating in this revolution that is partly aligned, like it's aligned with the Palestinian cause, how could you also now support a group of people who are doing a revolution who are against the Palestinian cause, right? So the only way for you to make sense of this while not making yourself feel like you're on the wrong side of history is one of these is a real revolution, and the other one is basically a psyop, like it's a CIA or a Mossad operation that is not organic and is not real. Does that make sense, sure?
It does. It's slightly depressing, but I still appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. No, thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Before we move on, Armin, Nail Bunny asked that you check your Telegram, please.
Okay, I will. Right after
And
Crystal and Oscar, right?
yes. Okay, and we're cutting the list there. Thank you, everybody. Don't stick your hand out or we cut it off. Bye.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me be here. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Wonderful. I actually wanted to make a comment about something that was said very earlier on in the session, where a question was raised as to why these conversations matter. And if you don't want to discuss that, then I can pass. It's okay.
No, that's a really good point. Go on.
I want to say that I think it's really imperative that we have these smaller conversations. Many of us can't go out and protest, or we're not able to, really make an impact at a large scale, but we can learn and educate ourselves. A lot of the points that get made, there's so much confusion and this misinformation about whose side we're on and whether or not we need to pick a side. And like you had just mentioned, Armin, when you said about being against, the Palestinian-Israeli issue, I don't think that many Americans, at least the way that I see it, really realize how this Palestinian cause has been used to exploit this American ideal of freedom and liberty. And, I don't think most people really understand what Hamas has done and how they've made them, their living shield. And right now we're seeing that happen in Iran.
I think that's such an important point, and let me actually explain the scale of this, if I may add to the point that you're making. The whole point of Palestinian cause is to use the so-called Palestinians, or the people in Gaza and Judea Samaria, to unite people against the Western world order. Like, that is the entire point. This has nothing to do with the people in Gaza. This has nothing to do with the people in Judea and Samaria. This is all about the people who want to destroy the world order as it is, to find a cause, to pretend that they're the victims, and to basically morally justify burning everything to the ground, because they want the people in Judea and Samaria and Gaza to suffer, to basically condemn the entire world, to basically justify burning the entire world. This is something the Iranian people have recognized. And this is why the Iranian people also have recognized that they have been invaded by the Palestinian cause, right? Like, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Iran has been occupied by Palestine, right? Like, the people who are ruling over Iran are right now, there's nothing Iranian about them. Everything about them is Palestinian. Their DNA is Palestinian, their entire genesis story is Palestinian, and their cause is Palestinian. And the Iran is more occupied by Palestine, the Palestinian cause, than Gaza and Judea Samaria. And we all understand that from the very beginning of this cause, this was an expansionist. Like, they want to basically control the Palestinian cause, wants to invade everywhere except Gaza and Judea and Samaria. I'm pretty sure they don't want to have full control over there, because that would mean that they don't have any victimhood narrative anymore. They want to be able to occupy, completely have full control in Iran, in maybe many, like in Iraq and Syria, everywhere else. But they want to completely they want Israel to be able to continue to defend itself, so that they could put innocent people in the way, and Israel as a continuation of basically US power, because Israel is considered to be like the continuation of US power in the Middle East, for them to be able to justify eventually, like, waging war against the United States. So, like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these people don't, like, some of these people who understand what's going on, they don't want really Israel to actually fall quite yet. Like, eventually, yes, but not quite yet, because they want to force Israel to put Israel in a position that, in an act of defending itself, children die in Gaza, so that this fuels their cause indefinitely, until they could basically conquer the entire world, or basically burn the entire world, because this is what fuels their movement. And Iranian people understand this. This is why the Iranian people inside Iran chant, "Shove the Palestinian flag up your ass." Like, this is one of the most famous chants in Iran, because they understand what the Palestinian flag stands for.
100% agree with Armin. Like, I've seen so many people say, like, that, oh, see, it's like the whole, like, shining a light in Palestine is a good thing because it, like, helps prove how evil capitalism somehow is. And yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right.
they've completely exploited any aspect that they could to really, unfortunately, radicalized well-meaning people who just lacked the intellectual capacity to fully understand who they started to support. And now I look around myself in America and I'm like, wow, they really don't know what they're supporting. They have no notion of who the actors are behind the scene. They just are really fueled by their emotions. And it's sad, because once you start to explain this to people, when we have these conversations, and even just in small talk, they're like, wait a minute, I don't really align with that cause. And I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And they'll admit it, but it takes these conversations to really get that.
Really? I try to tell people shit, and, like, I just get accused of being Islamophobic. Like, I cannot tell people what the reality on the ground in Gaza is like, in terms of, like, what their ideology is, without getting called Islamophobic. If I so much as tried to tell someone, hey, the average Gazan is more homophobic than the average Israeli, it's just getting yelled at Islamophobic. for even suggesting that that's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, and a lot of people who are basically saying free Palestine, they don't understand that they're also participating in a movement that is about anti-capitalism. Like they don't even know like how that there's even any connection between the Palestinian cause and completely dismantling the capitalism. If you tell people that, like, what is it? What does like one got to do with the other one? But like in the minds of these people, the evils of like what's happening in Gaza is just the natural result of having a capitalist global order. That's what they think. Yeah. All right. So I think Oscar was next. By the way, Crystal, those are really good points. Thank you for bringing them up. Okay.
Yes, finally, it's Oscar.
Yeah, and I want to. Good thing that you brought it up because I wanted to talk about that as well. We all have different lives, so we all can all support in different ways. Right? It's not really about like the big knockout punch. It's more about like having many like little things that accumulate to like a big push. You know, and who knows? Maybe next time that you go to like a coffee place, you encounter maybe that person for whatever reason is somebody that have some stake in making decisions or in like whatever, and you talk to the guy and you tell them for whatever reason, right? It's all like a possibility. You're just increasing the likelihood. Like we know this in like martial arts, like you're not gonna get like a quick knockout punch quickly, right? You have to like accumulate damage and momentum, and then you can get that knockout punch, right? So it's the same idea pretty much, right? So these Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to agree with you because, for example, when Sohail sent us that video, he didn't know that it's going to be watched by Ted Cruz, and all of a sudden it was watched by
Yeah.
Ted Cruz, and he talked about it on Fox News. And also, like, I was on I guess on like a much smaller channel just recently that I thought like this is a very small channel and has very low impact because of the audience is very small. But then I realized like actually this very small channel is being like is a channel that is being watched by important people. The audience size might be small, but the people who are watching it are actually quite influential, right? So don't judge like some don't judge a channel or or any other person. Somebody like, for example, you might be talking to the husband or wife of somebody who's very influential that, and even you don't know, or even somebody who's not very influential might actually change their opinions, and they're going to change someone else's opinion, and then all of a sudden in this chain reaction, one person among all of those people is going to be somebody that is very influential. So the only thing the only thing we could do is just basically keep informing people and basically having a positive impact, rather than focusing on how much of an impact this is going to have eventually. Focus on am I doing my part, like am I doing whatever I could do. And if all of us think like that, eventually it's going to have a big response. I mean, that's what they are doing. They're not like questioning themselves, and that's why they sometimes are very influential. So we also have to be not questioning ourselves and our influence. Just do what you can. But go, sorry for interrupting, Oscar.
Yeah, and to kind of like further what you're saying, like a lot of the kind of the facts that people talk to us about like conflicts like Israel or Venezuela and stuff like that, these are like the status quo in a sense, right? Like these are like opinions that people hold not because they like particularly research things or not because they particularly had some investment in the topic, but just because they understand that for whatever reason, like Jews run the banks, right? Like just kind of how they do. And any opportunity that you talk to someone, which someone might just have that fact, they might just assume that could be an opportunity to be like, where do you get that from, bro? Like where do you get that idea from? Oh no, I saw it in one video and blah blah blah. And like, do you even look up who the guy was, or do you even look up his credentials or what he was talking about or anything? Because people just think things, because they heard it from a friend or from somebody, and they don't really question. And so like any opportunity that you have in talking to a random person could be an opportunity to kind of challenge that status quo opinion in a way, or to ask them a question about like, how do you come to that conclusion? And they're like, I don't know, like my pastor told me or whatever. And then you can have a conversation with them. But yeah, like these things, like small things matter, and then also whatever thing you can do, it can be just a conversation, talking here, talking to someone. You never know, that might be the thing that puts the momentum in our favor. And yeah, so
Awesome. Yeah, completely agree. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop the recording. Or unless BT, you wanted to say something? I'm not. The conversation continues with you guys here. However, when I stop the recording, that means that you guys could basically say the things that you wanted to say without it being recorded, or the people who don't want their voices to be recorded and
Armin,
they're
I have one
waiting.
super quick
Yeah.
question. Super
Okay,
quick
go ahead.
question. Why hasn't Reza Pahlavi met with Trump yet?
Well, I think I don't know if it was Gary or Jeffrey. He responded to this because I think that would be that
Oh,
would
okay.
not
Sorry,
look
I was
good.
late. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I'll respond. I think it's important for Prince Reza Pahlavi not to look like he has been handpicked by the Americans to be the leader of Iranians. So they asked Trump about what he thinks about Prince Reza Pahlavi, and Trump said like, "Oh, I think he's a good guy, but I don't know how much support he has. The Iranian people, we should just let the Iranian people decide whatever the leader want." And I think that was a very smart response. You want to make sure that the world understands that our leader hasn't been handpicked by the Americans, and this is not an American picked like leader for the Iranian people, and this is the leader that the Iranian people have chosen themselves.
Where is Reza Pahlavi right now? Is he in Europe?
I think he's in America right now. I'm not sure. I mean, he's traveling a lot, so I don't know where his last location is.
Okay.
But I think his base is in America. So, but if anybody knows,
let me
could
check
know.
actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking right now. So he's actually he's actually based out of Washington D.C. That's where he's been living for 10 years, I think, 12 years.
Yeah, but I do think he might be traveling. Like, I'm not sure if he's traveling a lot or not right now. Jeffrey, did you?
Button, brother. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No worries. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna stop the recording. BT, you wanted to say something?